It's now time for a closer look with Lennox Gasper, a program which takes an in-depth look at the government's works in and around communities in Region 10 and how these works are impacting the lives of residents.
Good day, viewers, and welcome to the A Closer Look program. Now, today we have with us the Minister of Public Works, Bishop Juan Edghill, who will speak a lot about what was done in 2021 regarding the region's public infrastructure. Minister Edghill, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, and greetings to all of your viewers and listeners.
Thank you. Before we speak about what was done in 2021, let us first take a step back and look at what was the state of the public infrastructure in Region 10 prior to the rollout of Budget 2021.
It is painful to even describe the state of neglect. And this was not only in Region 10, but was across the country. Linden, Kokwani, Mabura Hill, 47 miles, 58 miles, were areas that people were crying out for attention and crying out for development. The people from Malali and Muratario in the Demerara River, their only means of access was by way of boat. And all they wanted was the road to get into their communities. Didn't happen. We got in. Our first budget, we issued contracts to begin both the road to Malali and the road to Muratario. The people in Kokwani showed the condition of the internal roads in Kokwani, the deplorable state. We were able to get that fixed. The village of Hururu, that's in the Berbice River.
Yeah.
Their internal roads and the connection between Hururu and Kokwani, totally neglected. So we've had to go in and make the necessary interventions. Amelia's Ward, places in Wisma, Block 22, the Washapan Road had become so terrible that I had to put my force account unit in Linden for several weeks to deal with the drainage issue and get that road properly restored. When we came to government, and all through last year, which represented our first full year, the cry was, please help us. Nobody was doing anything in our community over the last 5 years. And while we have not been able to be in every single community, people now have a sense of hope that things are going to get to them because they see issues are being addressed in the various communities. I've had the privilege of going into Andysville and Prossville. What the people needed? Just their roads to be graded, water to get to them. After one meeting, we were able to get the engineers to go in there, work with the community people. Andyville and Prossville had their roads fixed. Water was able to come to them. Spikeland was being flooded, and a contractor was given a contract since 2018, 2019
To do sea defense
work. We had to terminate that contract for non-performance because the people were still being flooded. We've been able to advance waterfront development in the area. And the sad thing is, I had to take leadership from the front. We got the chairman, we got the mayor, another representative, the private sector. And it would appear, like I said it only last night in my debate, consultation and studies seems to be the new AFC's mode of delaying and killing every project. Somewhere along the line, we got to stop talking and start doing. So it was only after I said, if we don't get decisions, I'll take the money elsewhere. Then everybody woke up. Because it would look like people were lethargic, unwilling to really get things moving. And I'm saying this in the context where the constant boast of the previous administration is that Region 10 is their stronghold. But not even in their stronghold did they take care of the people. We have been able to go in as a PPPC administration, a responsible government, which believe in non-discriminatory engagement with citizens to bring about development and bring relief to the people in Region 10. And they are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel.
Minister, you spoke about some of the community roads that were done and the state of neglect that they were in. I know any person driving through Region 10 prior to the S administration taking office, particularly in the Amelia's Ward area, you spoke about that. If you weren't driving on the main road in Amelia's Ward, you weren't driving on any road that resembled a road, a smooth surface road. So it's good to know that that area had a lot of improvements. But what were some of the major improvements besides the ones that you mentioned within the region?
People have been able to have greater access to government services because we took it to them. Can I remind you that His Excellency the President and his cabinet held a cabinet outreach in Region 10 very early in his administration in 2021?
It was in January.
Do I have to remind that as a result of that, how many people who were on hold for years, issues with their land, their NIS payments, their getting matters resolved with various government agencies, were able to have their matters resolved on the spot or shortly after. When we rolled out the Gold Scholarship, we went to every corner of Region 10 and ensured that people were aware, applied, and many of them are now studying online through Gold. I'm just using these two instances to show to you that the affirmative action taken by President Ali and his administration has restored hope to the communities in Region 10. And they are seeing that a government that has been in office, one that they did not necessarily vote for, is bringing goods and services to them. Do I need to continue that with the government's intervention and the collaboration of a private sector partner? We were able to create 150 jobs for young people by putting back in place that call center at Karakara, which was closed as a result of the reckless political activities that transpired in the region that caused the foreign investor who was there before to withdraw. And during the full 5-year term of the APNU AFC, you heard conversations about how they're going to reopen it and they're going to reopen it and they're going to reopen it. But they didn't bring any jobs to the people. in the first year of our administration. We were able to reopen the call center. 150 people are currently employed, and the gentleman is looking about creating another shift so that we could double that number. So when you look at what would have happened in terms of the improvement in terms of health care, the new facilities that are there, ones that were languishing for completion, they're now completed. The direct intervention in terms of education. When it comes to housing, the people of Linden and Region 10 were able to benefit, whether they were young professionals or just the common man in the various housing programs, where the ministers of housing went there. And we saw the images, the joy, the happiness that came to people. Under the PPPC, residents of Region 10 got access to their own house lots. And while a government that claimed that Region 10 is their strongholds in office didn't get it. So we are proud of the fact that as a government, we have been able to break through some barriers and have gotten the buy-in from the members of the community. So you can give a man food, you can give him medicines. We have given out the $25,000 cash grant. We have ensured there were vaccines. We have provided the hampers. When there were floods in Kokwani and in Linden and in the rivers, we made the necessary interventions. But I think what the people of Linden and Region 10 has gotten more than anything else is hope. And they're no longer going to buy the lie that the PPPC in office will be harmful to their interests. They are recognizing that the PPPC in office is doing good for them. They are working. They got their lands. Their children are getting scholarships to study. The Board of Industrial Training is rolling out initiatives in Region 10.
Yeah.
The roads to give them access to various communities have been improved. The people from the mines are understanding that their children could get to school and get back home safely because the road is accessible. They're understanding. Through the Ministry of Agriculture, we have worked to develop a conservancy in West Watuka to promote agriculture, to ensure there's always water available for crops. An intervention by Minister Zulfikar Mustafa and the Ministry of Agriculture. Those are the things that are happening in Region 10. Not the doom and gloom. Not the doom and gloom.
You spoke about the interventions made, particularly during the floods mid last year. Can you tell us a bit about what was done, particularly in Kokwani? I know that was one of the hardest hit areas from the floods, but what was done concerning the infrastructure in Kokwani as the waters receded?
Well, we've had to rebuild the roads because remember those roads were all covered in water for months. That's where boats were plying. We've had to do back all the roads. People have had to get their lives back together. But more importantly, Kokwani could never forget the PPPC government stood with Kokwani in a way never seen before. The president went there. I was with him. The next day, more than 1,000 families received support and supplies. The Prime Minister made visits. The CDC intervened. Shelters in Kokwani, in Hururu, in Araima, Landersville. The Ministry of Agriculture, Minister Mustafa, and the Ministry of Natural Resources, Minister Barrett, went in, ensured that support was given to people in agriculture, as well as people who were doing forestry because they couldn't work. The kind of support to get their lives back together that was given to Kokwani is something that I think we all should be very proud of, and the people of Kokwani are greatly appreciative of. But that was not just limited to Kokwani in Region 10. The same thing was done in Linden, Spikeland, Karakara, the communities of Great Falls and Malali and Muratario that were flooded and water was up the stairs of the school. When I went there with Prime Minister Phillips, the boat from the Demerara River went all the way to the third and fourth tread of the school.
Yeah, I think that was a famous photo online. Yeah.
Right? But we worked with those communities.
And it wasn't just a one-off offer.
No,
You had
for several
interventions,
months we worked with them continually. We ensured, number one, people's health was taken care of. Secondly, they had enough to eat and survive while they couldn't work or farm or go to the forest to cut their woods. We ensured they had care packages, they had food, we ensured they had shelter, and then we provided the support for them to rebuild and get their lives going again. That is our track record.
Let us now transition to the upkeep of hinterland roads. This administration has constantly worked in many other hinterland communities to upgrade those roads, to bridge the coast to the hinterland so that there can be an easy access and also transfer of goods and services. What has been done concerning the hinterland roads for Region 10?
Well, I did mention, number one, we have the maintenance contract for the Linden to Kokwani Road, which is being very well executed. There have been absolutely no complaints by the users of that road. It's been well maintained. Linden to Mabura, we've had some difficulties, but at the end of last year, we issued 2 emergency contracts to get that corridor back in shape, and we are awaiting the final approval for signing of the contract for the asphaltic concrete road from Linden to Mabura. That is at the CDB for no objection at the final procurement stage. We've, like I said before, we've gone in with the roads to Malali and the road to Muratario. Those are various turns off from the Linden Mabura Road, Cutter Road, into those Amerindian reservations. So people could actually come out with trucks, canters, tractors, as against just what a boat could carry. So you could move more things in volume and economies of scale. They're more competitive in the marketplace as against coming out with a boat. The mines, which the cry of the people there is that the road that passes in front of the mines to go to Aichuni and on to Kokwani would often be done, but the roads inside were never done. The people saw the roads inside being done. When the floods came and there was major destruction, washaways and all the rest of it, whether they were culverts that had to be put in, PVC, HDP pipes, not PVC, HDP pipes, those big pipes, and culverts. We took them, installed them. The National Drainage and Irrigation Authority, the Ministry of Public Works, worked with those communities to ensure that they were adequately restored. The bridge that was broken down, rebuilt. So, in a framework of limited resources or competing for resources to do very many things, the people had their adequate share. We look forward to doing more, and we are committed to doing more.
You said that the contract signing for the Linda Mabur Road is looming. What can persons expect once this project, of course, is completed and persons can drive on that road? What can persons expect?
You could expect 122 kilometers of highway. Out from Linden to Mabura Hill, that's where Region 10 ends. And that project will be continued. You would look and see. Now we are right now out in the newspapers inviting bids for the building of all the bridges from Kurupukari all the way into Letham. And that road eventually moving from Mabura Hill into Kurupukari, over to Kurupukari, which is the Essequibo, and all the way into Letham. And the discussion and the planning which we are looking at is to ensure that we could pursue a rail road or a rail link along the same alignment of the road or near to that alignment to get us into Letham and then ultimately into northern Brazil, and that is to be linked with a deep water harbor. A major contract has been awarded for the building of the road from Aichuni to Takama. That is to facilitate plantation type agriculture.
Wow.
Corn and soya beans and all the rest of it. The road from Millie's hideout going into Sand Hills have been upgraded. So people in Region 10 cannot complain they can't get access to the forests for forestry or to lands for farming, or they can't move and commute and do trade and commerce. The network has been significantly improved.
And now we're looking towards 2022. I know you'll tell me this, that we'll hear it in the budget presentation. But overarchingly, what can we expect for the region pertaining to your ministry in 2022?
More development. More development in terms of infrastructure. The Ministry of Public Works lends support to other ministries. So, for example, if we improve a road, it means the delivery of education becomes easier. The delivery of health care becomes easier because of greater accessibility. It means tourism becomes more vibrant. People could get to various points. So, the Ministry of Public Works is not working in isolation, but we are part of a team for the whole development of Guyana, region by region. So as we continue to do our part, the sky is the limit.
A lot of the public accesses, one of the main concerns I've heard from the administration is the maintenance of these services and the misuse of these accesses, the misuse of roads and so on. What will the ministry be doing moving forward to discourage persons from, leaving sand on the road and having a lot of debris pertaining to, derelict vehicles and so on the side of the road that eventually erode these infrastructure? What will the ministry be doing moving forward to discourage that?
Well, we'll continue to do what we started. We started with moral suasion, voluntary compliance. We got rules, we got laws, we got regulations and enforcement. In the COVID-19 environment, we've been very careful that whatever we do did not interrupt economic activities because it was COVID. Many people were not working. They did different things to keep themselves alive, whether it was getting some fish and chips in the corner of the road, or we understood those dynamics. We've been talking to people. As a country, we want to restore the country back to normal, and we are allowing people to move with that flow. There have been good cooperation, but we also have to say to the lawless and to the reckless, the law is the law, and it will be upheld with the cleanup of Georgetown and cleanup of the country. As a matter of fact, this coming weekend, there's going to be a cleanup in Linden.
Okay.
There's a major cleanup activity in Linden planned for Sunday.
And who are some of the persons or groups joining
Well,
this exercise?
we have engaged the mayor and the councillors, the regional chairman and the councillors, various community leaders, the CDCs, volunteers, just like the business community, getting all the stakeholders on board to get it moving. So we want to discourage people. You cannot continue to just dump stuff at the corner of the road, whether it's an old vehicle, sand, builder's waste. If you're in construction, you get a permit so that you could get your materials on site, but you got to clean up after. You got to clean up after. And we need the support. The Ministry of Public Works takes care of all the main accesses. The local authority areas have to deal with the roads that fall under their purview and their care. And of course,
Oftentimes that's not the case.
sometimes they don't even acknowledge that those roads fall under their care because then they have to repair them. And they have not been repairing them. They leave everything to central government. So we got to work in better partnerships. But I'm convinced that Guyanese are taking more pride in themselves and in Guyana. If you notice, people are dressing different. People are putting out themselves better. There are smiles on the faces of people. Guyana is a place now where people have hope. You know, I recall on the presidency of Dr. Jagdeo, forgive me going so far back.
I could remember.
People moved from sitting at the corner of the road and cutting your hair with scissors, razor blade, and comb. And barbers opened barbershops that were air conditioned with sanitized equipment to be used. People moved from sitting at the corner of the road and plaiting hairs to salons, or somebody at the corner of the road in America Street or somewhere, and they had the nail technicians now in salons and all the rest of it. There was a big shift of how people started to take pride in themselves and the country started to move. There's a new wave of that is happening right now. I can see it. And it's not only in central Georgetown. In Linden, it's there. It's across the country. And this is something that we have to encourage. National pride, personal pride, take care of your environment, get more involved in community involvement. Let's look out for the young people and the children, the vulnerable, the senior citizens. Let's do things to keep our environment clean. Let's put pride in making Guyana the best place, our home, our country.
Before we close the program, I know nationally there are a lot of big ticket items. We just want to get you on this for a few minutes. A lot of big ticket items that the ministry hopes to get moving along from this year. What are some of those big ticket items that will be, coming on stream?
We'll be doing much more in terms of our road network. We have to expand that. There's a big push to cut travel time, great accessibility. What we're doing is to open up new areas, because when you open up new areas, people have great opportunities, whether for housing, for farming, for light manufacturing, call centers, malls, hotels. So we'll be expanding accessibility. And whatever we do now, we have to put in place resilient infrastructure, bearing in mind climate change and all of the things that are happening and the changing weather patterns that come along with that. Resilient infrastructure. So we are moving out from some of the timber bridges into more long-term bridges. We have just done 2 bridges in Georgetown.
Yeah.
Those bridges should be able to give us 40 to 50 years before we have to revisit them, as against putting in a timber bridge and then you go back to it in 3 to 5 years or even 7 years at maximum. It's all rotten and broken. So, yes. So in every region, we will be looking at putting in place greater networks that allow for accessibility, improving the lives of people. When a road goes in, electricity follows, water follows, internet follows, and people don't mind moving from the clusters that they're living in right now.
Exactly.
To live in better space environment. And when you move there, new businesses have to start, new supermarkets.
There's new opportunities.
New
all around.
opportunities across, and small businesses will benefit from such an environment. It's just a massive undertaking that we are very proud to be leading at this time.
I'm sure a lot of our viewers are excited, as you ended off so nicely there, about what we're likely to see in 2022. Of course, on Wednesday, the budget will be presented, so I'm sure a lot of persons will be looking at that. Minister Edghill, thank you so much for joining us on the program. This has been a closer look. We've had the Minister of Public Works looking back at what was done in 2021 and looking ahead as Guyana continues to be developed. Do join us for another segment of A Closer Look next week.